There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Disney is in crisis mode, and it's bigger than just one failed film. Snow White was supposed to be a massive hit, but instead, it becomes the biggest flop ever. Now, Margot Robbie reveals surprising comments about the Snow White remake and its lead actress, Rachael Zegler. What went wrong with Disney's big princess movie? And why is Margot Robbie suddenly at the center of this controversy? Join us as we uncover the shocking details that changes everything. From the moment Disney announced its Snow White remake, something felt off. Normally, Disney live-action remakes attract both nostalgia and excitement, but this time, it was different. Instead of generating hype, Snow White faced massive backlash, most of it aimed directly at Rachael Zegler. The controversy started with Disney's casting decision, as some fans were surprised that the studio moved away from a more traditional depiction of the classic princess. However, things escalated when old interviews of Rachael Zegler resurfaced, where she openly mocked the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In multiple interviews, Zegler laughed at the 1937 classic, calling it outdated and weird. She dismissed the original story, even saying that Snow White doesn't need a prince and that they were completely rewriting the character. While modernizing stories isn't uncommon, Zegler's tone rubbed audiences the wrong way.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
Instead of expressing respect for the original film, one that literally built Disney's empire, she acted as if it was something to be ashamed of. As clips of her interviews spread, the backlash intensified. Fans called her ungrateful, saying she had no appreciation for the role she was given. Worse, it seemed like Disney was completely unaware of how bad the situation was getting. Instead of having Zegler clarify her statements or shift the narrative, the studio doubled down. They promoted the film as a modernized reimagining, which only fueled the outrage. At this point, Snow White wasn't just another Disney movie. It had become a symbol of Hollywood ignoring its audience, and that would prove to be a costly mistake. Disney had high hopes for Snow White, but when the first official footage dropped, it was clear that the project was doomed. Fans immediately noticed that the movie wasn't staying true to the original. The biggest red flag? The Seven Dwarfs were barely present, replaced by a group of magical creatures that looked nothing like the beloved characters from the classic film. As release day approached, things went from bad to worse.
You guys, Disney's new live-action remake of Snow White debuted this weekend, and it's an even bigger dud than anticipated.
Rachael Zegler's attitude toward the film alienated Disney's core audience. Longtime Disney fans, who had supported the company for decades, felt disrespected. The marketing did nothing to ease concerns, and soon, rumors started spreading that Disney had little faith in the film's success. Some reports even claimed that executives were debating whether to delay or quietly scrap the release altogether. Financially, the numbers were brutal. The production budget for Snow White was reportedly massive, but the box office projections set a new record. Instead of breaking records as the highest grosser, the movie was prepared to lose millions. Meanwhile, critics weren't much kinder. Early test screenings reportedly received negative feedback, and audiences weren't connecting with the new vision. This wasn't just a one-time flop. It was part of a pattern. Disney had already suffered major losses with The Marvels and Indiana Jones, both of which underperformed. The message from audiences was clear. They were tired of Hollywood forcing changes that felt unnecessary.
Controversy has swirled around Gal Gadot's new movie, also starring Rachael Zegler as Snow White. A lot of people don't like her. A lot of people don't like her either. She's got a big mouth. She talked trash about the original movie.
While the film industry scrambled for answers, one person seemed to have figured it out already: Margot Robbie. While Disney was dealing with backlash, Margot Robbie was on the opposite end of the spectrum. Her Barbie movie was one of the biggest success stories in Hollywood history, proving that audiences still loved classic characters when they were handled correctly. But here's where things get interesting. Unlike Snow White, Barbie didn't reject its roots. Margot and director Greta Gerwig took the exact opposite approach. They leaned into the nostalgia while still making the story feel modern. From the very start, Margot played the game smart. She didn't dismiss Barbie's past, nor did she act like she was above the character. Instead, she embraced it. In interviews, she spoke about how much she loved Barbie growing up and how important the brand was to generations of fans. This immediately put audiences at ease. Whether you were a longtime Barbie fan or just curious about the movie, there was no sense of shaming the original.
Neither of them make any sense for their roles. We've already covered how Rachael Zegler is a terrible choice for Snow White. Nothing about her says Snow White, and that's even leaving aside the fact that she openly detests the story, as she said many times during this disastrous PR campaign. But Gal Gadot who plays the queen, the first problem is that she's the evil queen. The evil queen is supposed to be envious of Snow White's beauty, and that is just not believable. It is just not, even in a movie with magical mirrors and dwarves and all that, in a fairy tale, that strains my ability to suspend disbelief. I cannot buy that Gal Gadot is angry that she's not as beautiful as Rachael Zegler. I cannot buy that.
It wasn't just financially successful. It became a pop culture moment. People dressed up to see the film, the marketing was brilliant, and the entire project felt like it respected the audience. That's where the comparisons to Snow White became impossible to ignore. While Margot Robbie built excitement, Rachael Zegler unintentionally pushed people away. And when Robbie finally commented on the state of Hollywood, fans couldn't help but think she was taking a shot at Disney. In a recent interview, she spoke about how audiences want movies that respect their original source material. She hinted that part of Barbie's success was due to the filmmaker's deep appreciation for the character and its legacy. To many fans, this was a not-so-subtle jab at Disney's recent failures. The internet quickly picked up on this, with people drawing comparisons between Margot's professionalism and Zegler's dismissive attitude. Even longtime Disney fans started pointing out how Margot Robbie seemed to understand audiences in a way that modern Disney executives did not. Of course, not everyone was happy about this comparison, and when fans started praising Margot while criticizing Rachael Zegler, things took a dramatic turn. As comparisons between Margot Robbie and Rachael Zegler gained traction, it was only a matter of time before Zegler responded. While she didn't directly mention the controversy, fans quickly noticed a shift in her social media activity.
I think it's fair to say that no one can stand the star of this movie.
Now you have Rachael Zegler saying, oh, that 1937 movie, that's just, oh, it's tacky, it's weird, we're going to change all that.
Now for Disney, as you probably remember, all of this publicity, the Zegler interviews, the Daily Mail leak, caused a lot of unexpected, for them anyway, pre-production problems. People weren't supposed to see and understand just how unwatchable the new Snow White was going to be. It was supposed to be, kind of a surprise, but now there was no hiding it.
This is truly like, she has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She has to go.
This is someone who is as entitled as, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it. You didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White. Right. You should shut up and do the job.
Because Rachael Zegler is a PR nightmare.
It's just a total nightmare for the studios. So now she's trying to sell like, oh, I love Snow White. I love everything about the whole story. Here she is more recently trying to change the messaging. This is actually Wednesday.
Studio, if you're a director, if you're a casting director, you've got to think twice or three times before hiring her. Listen, she's talented, she's attractive, she's got skill, but there are a lot of actresses in Hollywood who bring all that to the table and are not going to absolutely sabotage your work.
So much for being here, and to see this is really emotional for me, so I'm going to try to not do that. I love her,
she's
and
emotional
her
now.
superpower is her heart. It's nothing supernatural. It's something that all of us have. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy Snow White. Thank you, guys.
But you're going to hire little people to play the dwarfs? That just seems like a step backwards. And then, of course, Disney instantly buckled and said, okay, we're going to add magical creatures. And then the picture of the magical creatures leaked online, and everyone just had an absolute blast laughing at it. So the magical creatures are here in the movie. The CGI dwarfs are here in the movie. It works to a degree, but it's certainly going to be a financial hit for Disney, that's for sure.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her.
Oh my God.
And I can only hope.
What does that mean?
That despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
But this truly is the worst casting, maybe in the history of the film industry. Has there been a film with worse casting than this? And I don't just mean the Snow White actress. Obviously, she's terrible, but both of them.
But these guys at Disney, they're not that bright, they're not that smart, and we see that because they can't come up with any new IP. Why not write some new movies? You guys sit around, you have billions of dollars, they keep going back and rewriting the classics.
So just how bad? The movie debuted in the United States at #1 with $43 million. Decent, but not a blockbuster. And far below projections. Internationally, a similar story. Overseas, Snow White took in $44.3 million in its opening weekend, bringing the total to just $87.3 million, with a budget of around $209 million. That means Snow White is destined to be one of the biggest bombs in Disney history. It will not recoup.
She liked and shared posts that seemed to take jabs at the backlash, with some suggesting that she was unfairly targeted by online trolls. But if she was hoping to turn the narrative in her favor, it backfired spectacularly. Instead of sympathy, she received more criticism. People pointed out that her situation wasn't about being unfairly attacked. It was about how she handled herself in interviews, and how she seemingly dismissed the legacy of Snow White. Many felt that instead of addressing concerns or clarifying her stance, she played the victim. It didn't help that some of her past statements resurfaced again. Clips from interviews where she spoke dismissively about the original Snow White continue to circulate, reigniting the anger of both casual viewers and die-hard Disney fans. The situation only got worse when fans began comparing her to Margot Robbie even more. They pointed out how Margot took a respectful, strategic approach to Barbie, whereas Zegler's comments made it seem like she saw Snow White as something to be embarrassed about. Hollywood insiders began to weigh in, with some quietly suggesting that Zegler's rising star status had taken a major hit. Instead of being positioned as the next big Disney lead, she was now being viewed as a liability. Some even speculated that this controversy could impact her future roles, especially with studios becoming more cautious about hiring actors who alienate audiences. This raised a bigger question. If Disney and other studios were starting to rethink their approach, did that mean Hollywood was finally learning its lesson? The fallout from Snow White's failure isn't just about one movie. It's a wake-up call for Hollywood. Over the past few years, there's been a growing disconnect between filmmakers and audiences, with studios pushing changes that many viewers feel are unnecessary or forced. And when audiences push back, they're often dismissed as toxic or haters. But the numbers don't lie. These movies are flopping, and the people who pay for tickets are making it clear that they want stories that respect the source material. Disney is facing a crisis. They've had several major box office failures in a row, and the backlash against Snow White is just the latest in a long list of problems. Some insiders believe this could force the company to change course. If they continue down this path, they risk alienating their most loyal fan base. But if they start listening to audiences, they might be able to turn things around. Meanwhile, Margot Robbie has cemented herself as one of Hollywood's smartest players. She didn't just star in Barbie, she produced it. She understood the cultural moment and knew exactly how to appeal to both old and new fans. And now, she's being used as the gold standard for how to handle a beloved franchise the right way. So where does this leave Rachael Zegler? Her reputation has taken a massive hit, and it's unclear whether she can recover. Some believe she'll lay low and try to rebuild her image over time, while others think she's already burned too many bridges. Either way, one thing is clear. Hollywood is at a turning point. The industry can keep ignoring audiences and face more flops, or it can start learning from its mistakes. The only question is whether they'll actually listen. But what do you think? Is this the end of Disney's live-action remakes? Will Hollywood finally learn its lesson? Or are we just going to see more of the same? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for further updates.